Martin Luther King Jr. stands as a towering figure in American history, renowned for his leadership in the civil rights movement and his unyielding commitment to nonviolent protest. His legacy is marked by a series of monumental achievements that not only reshaped the legal landscape of the United States, but also inspired a global dialogue on human rights and equality. Here are the top 10 achievements that define his extraordinary impact. Civil rights leadership. Martin Luther King Jr. emerged as a pivotal figure in the civil rights movement, embodying leadership that would forever alter the landscape of American society. His advocacy for racial equality, voting rights, and desegregation was rooted in a philosophy of nonviolent resistance, inspired by the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi and the Christian ethos of love and forgiveness. King's leadership was characterized by his eloquent speech-making, intellectual rigor, and moral clarity. He was adept at mobilizing communities, drawing from his background as a Baptist minister to connect with people on both an emotional and spiritual level. His most iconic moment came with the "I Have a Dream" speech delivered during the 1963 March on Washington, where he painted a vivid picture of a future where racial harmony would prevail. Under his guidance, the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955 to 1956 successfully challenged segregation on public transportation, setting a precedent for nonviolent protest. King was instrumental in founding the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which became a cornerstone for organizing civil rights actions across the South. His commitment to nonviolent protest was unwavering, even in the face of violent opposition and personal threats. This approach not only captured the moral high ground, but also drew international attention to the plight of African Americans, putting pressure on American political leaders to enact change. His leadership directly influenced the passage of landmark legislation, like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. King's legacy as a civil rights leader is not just in the laws he helped pass, but in the enduring message of love, justice, and equality that continues to inspire movements around the world. Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech, delivered on August 28, 1963, during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, stands as one of the most profound and influential speeches in American history. Addressing a crowd of over 250,000 at the Lincoln Memorial, King articulated a vision of racial harmony and equality that resonated far beyond the immediate context of the civil rights struggle. The speech is celebrated for its rhetorical power and its moral clarity. King's use of repetition, imagery, and anaphora, particularly the phrase "I have a dream," not only captivated his audience, but also etched the speech into the collective memory of the nation. He spoke of a future where the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners could sit down together at the table of brotherhood, painting a vivid picture of an America free from racial injustice. King's oration was not just a call for civil rights, but a broader appeal for moral and social transformation. He invoked the American dream, the Declaration of Independence, and biblical references to argue that the fight for civil rights was fundamentally a fight for the soul of America, aligning it with the country's foundational values of freedom and equality. The "I Have a Dream" speech transcended the moment of its delivery, becoming a beacon for civil rights movements worldwide. Its message has inspired generations to strive towards a society where people are judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. This speech remains a testament to King's eloquence, vision, and unwavering belief in the possibility of change through peaceful means. In 1964, Martin Luther King Jr. was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize at the age of 35, making him the youngest man to receive this honor at the time. The award recognized his exceptional leadership in the fight for racial justice in the United States, emphasizing his commitment to nonviolent resistance. His work with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, and his pivotal role in events like the Montgomery bus boycott and the March on Washington underscored his dedication to civil rights through peaceful means. King's acceptance speech underscored his belief in the power of nonviolence to achieve social change, echoing his philosophy influenced by Gandhi and Christian teachings. This accolade not only celebrated his past achievements, but also amplified his message globally, reinforcing the international community's commitment to peace and equality. His Nobel Prize stands as a testament to his enduring influence in advocating for human dignity and justice. The Montgomery bus boycott, initiated in December 1955, was a seminal event in the civil rights movement. Sparked by Rosa Parks' arrest for refusing to give up her seat to a white passenger, the boycott was organized by a new group called the Montgomery Improvement Association, with Martin Luther King Jr. as its president. For 381 days, African Americans in Montgomery, Alabama, boycotted the city's buses, opting instead for carpools, walking, or other forms of transportation. This sustained nonviolent protest not only demonstrated the community's resolve, but also brought significant economic pressure on the bus company. The boycott's success culminated in a pivotal legal victory. In November 1956, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Browder v. Gale that segregation on public buses was unconstitutional, effectively ending racial segregation on Montgomery's buses. This event not only marked a significant civil rights milestone, but also established King as a national leader in the fight against racial injustice. The Birmingham Campaign of 1963 was a pivotal moment in the civil rights movement, showcasing Martin Luther King Jr.'s strategic acumen in activism. King, along with the SCLC, targeted Birmingham, Alabama, known for its harsh segregation laws, aiming to provoke a crisis that would force federal intervention. Using nonviolent protests, sit-ins, and marches, the campaign was met with fierce resistance from local authorities, who responded with police dogs, fire hoses, and mass arrests, particularly during the Children's Crusade, where young people marched in droves. The violent images broadcasted nationwide shocked the American public and drew international condemnation, highlighting the brutality of segregation. This media exposure was instrumental in garnering support for civil rights legislation. King's leadership in Birmingham not only led to desegregation agreements, but also played a crucial role in the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, showcasing how strategic nonviolent action could compel change by exposing the moral failings of segregationist policies. Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from Birmingham jail, written in April 1963, is one of the most significant documents in the civil rights movement. Composed while King was imprisoned for participating in nonviolent demonstrations against segregation, the letter was a response to a public statement by 8 white Southern religious leaders who criticized the protests as unwise and untimely. King's letter powerfully articulates the moral and philosophical justification for civil disobedience, arguing that waiting for justice was no longer tenable when basic human rights were being denied. He emphasized the necessity of direct action to create a crisis that would open the door to negotiation. The letter not only defends the tactics of nonviolent protest, but also calls out the complacency of moderate whites and the church, urging a more active role in the fight against injustice. Its eloquence and moral clarity have made it a timeless piece on the ethics of protest and the urgency of racial justice. The Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, was co-founded by Martin Luther King Jr. in January 1957 in the wake of the successful Montgomery bus boycott. This organization was pivotal in organizing and coordinating civil rights activities throughout the South, providing a structured platform for nonviolent protest against racial segregation and disenfranchisement. The SCLC's strategy involved mobilizing churches, which were central to Black communities, into a network for activism, thereby leveraging the moral authority of religious leaders in the fight for civil rights. Under King's leadership, the SCLC orchestrated key events like the Birmingham Campaign and the March on Washington, which were instrumental in pushing forward civil rights legislation. The formation of the SCLC not only amplified the voice of the civil rights movement, but also institutionalized King's philosophy of nonviolent resistance, making it a cornerstone for future civil rights actions. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 was a landmark piece of federal legislation aimed at overcoming legal barriers at the state and local levels that prevented African Americans from exercising their right to vote under the 15th Amendment. Martin Luther King Jr.'s leadership was crucial in its passage. Following the violent events in Selma, Alabama, where peaceful marchers were brutally attacked, King organized the historic Selma to Montgomery marches, drawing national attention to the issue of voting rights. These demonstrations, particularly Bloody Sunday, galvanized public opinion and political will. King's strategic focus on voting rights highlighted how disenfranchisement perpetuated racial inequality. His advocacy and the mobilization of the civil rights community were instrumental in compelling Congress to act. Signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson, the act outlawed discriminatory voting practices, significantly increasing African American voter registration and participation, fundamentally reshaping the political landscape of the United States. The Poor People's Campaign, launched by Martin Luther King Jr. in late 1967, was a significant expansion of his activism beyond racial equality to address economic injustice across all communities. King envisioned a movement that would unite poor people of all races in a demand for better jobs, housing, education, and a guaranteed annual income. This campaign aimed to demonstrate the intersectionality of racial and economic oppression, showing that poverty was not just a Black issue but a national one. King's plan was to stage a massive protest in Washington, D.C. to pressure the government into recognizing and addressing systemic poverty. Although King was assassinated before the main event could fully unfold, the campaign commenced with a march and the establishment of Resurrection City, a shanty town on the National Mall. The Poor People's Campaign underscored King's evolving vision towards a broader fight for economic justice, leaving a lasting impact on the discourse surrounding poverty in America. Martin Luther King Jr. Its enduring legacy transcends his lifetime, serving as a perpetual source of inspiration for justice movements worldwide. His philosophy of nonviolent resistance, his eloquent advocacy for civil rights, and his vision of a beloved community have influenced countless leaders and activists. King's ideas continue to shape political, social, and racial justice campaigns, from anti-apartheid struggles in South Africa to contemporary movements like Black Lives Matter. His I Have a Dream speech and letter from Birmingham jail are studied globally as seminal texts on human rights and civil disobedience. National holidays, monuments, and educational programs in his honor keep his message alive, ensuring that new generations learn from his teachings on equality, love, and the power of peaceful protest. King's legacy is not just in the laws he helped enact, but in the ongoing global pursuit of a more just and equitable world.